You're listening to a Brain Stew Fresh Fright Review.
What's up, creeps, and welcome to a brand new Brain Stew Fresh Fright Review. I'm Justin.
Jeremy?
Oh! Listen to me coming in all hard and shit, and you being all soft and shit. Woo! Are you trying to say that I'm the David Lee Roth and you're the Sammy Hagar of this shit? Is that what you're trying to say?
Bro, I don't even know who the fuck they are, okay? Because,
oh my
I listen to good music, Justin. I listen to Limp Bizkit, and I listen to Primer 55,
I love Limp Bizkit.
And I listen to Il Nino, okay?
Did you just say Primer 55? What's up, dude?
I'm here.
I'm here.
Phil is in the house.
I saw Primer 55, dude. I had a band that fucking covered Primer 55 when I was in high school. I even made my hair.
Oh,
yeah.
dude.
When I Get Loose.
I still jam that album
Dude,
every now and again.
dude.
I'm sorry. I'm a
That
sucker
album's some
for
good shit,
for D-grade shit new metal.
Dude,
and
same.
I'm here for it. Yeah.
I'm surprised.
Well, you've already
I'm
heard his
surprised
voice.
that you knew who Primer 55 was. That's amazing.
Hell yeah. I perked right up when you said that.
Dude, so, ladies and gentlemen, this is a Fresh Frights review of the brand new A24 film, Bodies. Jeremy, if you hadn't already done the drowning pool at the bodies hit the floor shtick like a few weeks ago, this probably would have fit perfectly into the episode.
One,
I feel like
nothing wrong with me.
Already did
Two,
it.
nothing wrong with
Two,
me.
yeah.
Three, something's gotta give. Something's gotta give. Ah! I just like the part where he's just like, ah!
Like he's taking the most massive shit of all time. But, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be talking about the new A24 film, Bodies, and we are joined by a very special guest this evening, our buddy Phil from the Spook House Podcast. Phil, what the fuck is up, buddy?
Oh, I'm glad to be here, man. I'm a legit big fan of the show, so thanks for having me on.
Oh, dude, thanks
And by the way, I saw
of
Drowning
course.
Pool at Ozfest 2001, and they tore it up.
Hell yeah, dude.
I was with the original singer before he died. So,
Dude, he died. He died
I think
here
the story
where I
was-
live. No bullshit.
Oh my
yeah,
God, I didn't even know that. Was it in the tour bus or
yeah.
something
He
like
but
that?
he
or-
died
Yeah.
like here where I live, like in my hometown. It was like drowning pool guy dies in van like here in Virginia. I'm like, that sucks. That sucks for that guy.
damn. We dedicate this episode to him. How about that?
Very much. Very
I mean,
much.
100%. For sure. I mean, at the time, I was playing in a band called Psychotic Elements. We were a pretty big local band, and that was a warm-up song we used, but we were using it to make fun of them. But at the same time, we all knew it was a good song. That's why it was on the fucking radio and shit. Never got to see them, but I did see Primer 55 at Ozfest.
That's
I
what's
think
up.
it was 99 or
2000.
2000 around there.
2000.
Yeah, there was. And they were like opening. It was like they were like right before Soulfly or something. It was fucking
Dude,
sick.
I have not heard the name Soulfly. This whole episode, fuck it. We're
Soulfly's
scrapping
fucking
bodies,
kicks
bodies,
ass,
bodies.
dude.
This is a new metal episode. Let's go.
I
This is
haven't
a new
heard
metal. We're talking about metal and shit.
I haven't heard the name Soulfly since yesterday when I listened to him. How about that?
Dude, I'm
Dude,
going
I
to be
feel like-
jamming them tomorrow now. I haven't thought about
Dude,
Soulfly in
also-
so long.
Be Ready isn't on the show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Brady's gone, but I've already found his replacement, and it's
Yep.
Phil.
Sorry, Brady.
Oh,
Brady,
no.
never come
Sorry,
back
Brady.
again. You're gone.
Hey, man. Brady has a much
Dude.
cooler name than me. Shout out to Halloween 4.
Dude, we talked about that.
Which
we
he
talked about
knows.
that in the Prey review, didn't we?
In our Predator, or well, yeah, Prey. Our
Brady
new
was
Predator
ready to
Prey
make a
review, whatever.
commitment.
Fucking Brady. My parents will be home, so I still want you to suck my dick. I want your dad to watch me. But ladies and gentlemen, yes, we are talking about a movie, Bodies, which myself and Jeremy, thankful to Allied Global Marketing and A24 for inviting us to see the movie early. It was a very slightly swanky little cocktail
was
opening,
nice.
It was very nice. Free beer and stuff, and you don't even drink beer, but you did eat a pretzel and a hot dog. I saw you eating
It was
a
a chili dog,
And-
and I was like, cool. This is like a really swanky place in Washington D.C. and like they really took their time making my hot dog too, and I was like, cool, man, it's gonna be like some really good chili and shit. It was straight up like canned chili. Like you could just
here it comes.
Fucking
here it comes.
You could just it was like
shit. Well, dude, it was an Angelica pop-up, which is brand new to that location near Union Market. I love Angelica Film Center in Mosaic and Fairfax. I usually go there. Well, when I used to live out there, I'd go there all the time. I don't go there at the time now. But thank you for inviting us. And also, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this and you like this movie, regardless of our review, we have a full-size theatrical poster for Bodies to give away.
Is that the one that you
be
stole?
Be sure to follow our social media and stuff. I didn't steal it. They told me I could take it. I looked at it and said, I'm taking that. And they said, go ahead.
They were scared of you. They were like, yeah, you can take it. You can take it.
Bro, they're scared of any motherfucker with green hair that had more than 5 drinks, looking them in the face, being like, can I have that poster?
They were like, yeah, if you leave, you can have it. He was like, deal.
Deal. Just go. But no, before we go any further, of course, we have to throw it to our guest, Phil, from the Spook House Podcast. Dude, just the floor is yours, man. Tell our listeners, those that are uninitiated, what your show is all about and what you do, man. What you love.
Oh, man. So our show is me and my buddy Doug from Long Island. We just talk about different movies and talk a lot of shit and have a lot of laughs. The show's kind of gone through different phases over the years. I started it in June 2019, and I now have a new co-host, and we're like, almost up to episode 85 or something, and
wow,
we just
awesome.
Just talk a lot of shit and talk a lot about new metal along the way. Somehow that's kind of our thing, but
awesome.
But yeah, we try to break down the movies and have fun with it, but also be informative in a way and hopefully tell you something that you didn't know about the movie before you started listening. So
that's awesome, man.
Wonderful.
That's what we do, man.
That sounds fucking rad.
That's what we do. That's what it's all about. Having fun, talking about these movies, man. Shitting on them if they need a little shit on them, and
if they, we don't hesitate to shit on them. And sometimes we disagree.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I do the shitting, sometimes Doug does the shitting.
Sometimes Doug does the eating, you do the shitting, and vice versa.
That's how it goes, man. But yeah, we keep it real, and we just give our honest opinions on whatever we're talking about. And we have a lot of fun doing it, so...
Well, ladies and gentlemen, those of you listening right now, make sure to check the show notes on the episode if you want to check out the Spook House Podcast. I'll throw a link in the show notes there if you want to go over there and download some of their episodes. But again, thank you so much, Phil, for just joining us, hanging out, and talking about bodies. Now, like us, you were able to see an advanced early screening of the movie, am I right?
Yeah, I did. I went to my local Alamo at here in Raleigh, North Carolina, and caught a little early screening of it. They had glow sticks at every seat that you could put on, like one per person, and they had a special drink menu. So I wore my glow stick while watching it around my neck.
We did too. We got them too.
Oh,
but
nice.
God, I love my Alamo.
Real
God,
quick,
I love my
Justin.
home
So,
base.
like Justin said earlier, is they provided us free drinks. It was open bar, like literally for like an hour, maybe an hour and some change. Yeah, and so, dude, there was one guy who was so goddamn shit faced that he probably pissed during the movie like 6 times, but like he was so drunk that he
more than I did,
which
more
is
than
fucking amazing. Because dude, when me and Justin go and see movies,
he broke my fucking
when
record.
me and Justin go see movies, like dude. When we saw Nope, was it Nope? There was one that you peed 3 times during.
No, Nope, I only peed twice, dude.
Okay. Anyways, this guy was so drunk. He peed like 6 times during the movie, but he was so drunk he walked like Frankenstein. So Justin, every single time that he would go to pee, Justin would fucking nudge me and be like, "Look," and he would be literally like staggering the wall to go to exit the theater room to go to the bathroom. It was like, yo, that.
What time was this showing?
So the cocktail hour was from 6 to 7, and they started the movie at like 7:15. So this guy must have like legitimately had power hour, where he was just like, yo, open bar means open bar. It's open season on this open bar. So,
well, I do respect his style because I'll tell you, anytime I go to a wedding and they're like open bar, I'm like,
y'all gonna regret that.
Open bar. Okay, all right, I'll partake a bit.
Yeah. So I mean, that guy was shit faced, but I mean, dude, Allied was great, and the Angelica pop up was fucking awesome, man. It just looked really cool. They had really vintage
Dude,
those vintage posters, man. They were sick as fuck.
As soon as I saw a vintage... Now, okay, I have to preface this with, I love the fact that they used this poster on the wall. It looked vintage, which means they defaced it. But the fact that they put it on the wall, it was the teaser poster for The Last Action Hero starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, which was a bomb when it came out in the summer of '93 because it came out only 2 weeks after Jurassic Park. But it's a huge fan favorite. I love that movie. As soon as I saw that, I was like, I'm in the right place. Yeah. I know what I'm in for. I'm digging this. And it's like almost what that building was like a really old warehouse that they just kind of turned into like a swanky, hipsterish theater. And I'm glad they did, man. Like utilizing spaces like that have been kind of like sitting there forever not being used is a great way to reintroduce those spaces to new audiences that maybe just walking by like, hey, that's a shitty ass building. Now it's a cool swanky theater and I can spend money there. But ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about this movie, and this is a non-IP. This is a non-franchise. This is a brand new movie from A24, and this is something that they're throwing out there as a brand new horror comedy. And I love A24. A24 has given me some of my favorite horror movies of the last few years.
Same.
Most recently, X with
Ty
West, and literally still my favorite horror film of the year as we stand right this moment. I don't know if that's going to change or not. We'll see. But, I mean, A24 has been really consistent in delivering really solid, different types of horror genre films to audiences. This film, which was directed by a woman, the story was written by a woman, the screenplay was by a woman, is geared towards a certain type of audience that I feel like would probably be more akin to my daughter, my 18-year-old daughter, and we'll get into that here. Definitely something that's for a younger type of audience, which is something they really haven't done yet. I mean, this felt like when you walked into this thing, I don't know what you guys feel about this, but when I walked into this thing and I had seen the trailer once, and I remember Jeremy saying something about this, it looked more Blumhouse than A24 to me. So this seems like they're trying to cross over into different territory. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, I totally get the Blumhouse vibes that you're talking about. I took it as like a Scream for this generation.
Yeah.
You know, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, Jeremy. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I mean, I totally felt the Blumhouse thing. Blumhouse is known for grabbing, young, beautiful people and putting them like Fantasy Island and shit like that. Like putting them, casting the movie with these beautiful people that are put in these situations and how they react to them. A24, has just really a lot of the really great films with A24 have been like tragedy based, whether that be Hereditary or Midsummer, etc. What are you shaking your head for? Oh, okay. I thought you were saying I was wrong. I was like, yo.
No. I'm thinking about it in my head because, I mean...
Yeah, so I mean, like...
Seriously, I mean, some of the most exciting movies that I've watched over the past 5 years of my life have all been A24 movies. I mean, we just saw Men earlier in the year,
What did you guys think of that? I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, dude, it's...
Well, we did a review of that movie.
It's
after
it's
you
the
watch
strangest
it,
fucking thing
definitely
I've ever seen.
give it a listen, but for sure... shocked the fucking hell out of me. I mean, definitely brought something to the table. And that's the thing about A24 that's going to be part of this conversation during this review is that they are always the ones given their A game. You know what I mean? They're stepping it up. They're really trying to produce something that is above the normal level that we consider horror. And now I am not going to ever agree to that stupid fucking term that some asshole on Twitter came up with. It's not real, dude. Horror has always been about politics, have social commentary relating to our everyday lives. It's always done it. There's nothing about horror that's any more elevated than it was before. Yeah. There's people out there that really just want to create this genre in their head and say, listen, I listen to only elevated horror. And dude, for sure, like if anything, I am the film snob on this show, but the reality of it is it's no different than what we had watched the past 30 years. They're just trying to compare it to the schlock. I mean, which we all love. Like, dude, yeah, of course, if you compare Chopping Mall or fucking Rocktober Blood or Haunted Ween to Hereditary, it's going to be a totally different vibe. But you know what? That doesn't mean that they're any
still horror.
That one is any better than the other in terms of like what it's trying to convey. It's still art, and it's still art from a filmmaker's perspective. And who knows? Maybe when they were making Chopping Mall, they were trying to make the truest piece of art they possibly could, but I highly doubt it. It's a different thing. So fuck that term elevated horror. I'll always say that on the show. You know what, guys? Tell me, let me know. If you want us to do a shirt that says fuck elevated horror on it with our logo, I will make that and we will sell that shit. But
or elevated horror doesn't exist.
Or elevated horror in quotes. There you go.
Perfect.
I'll wear one that says elevated horror sucks my balls. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, like, dude,
but no, for
like,
sure.
A24 again is like, it has not been your typical horror films, right? I think one of the most like straight up horror movie approaches that they've done in recent years is X. Like, that's a straight up like homage to like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and a few other things. But like, there are other films. I mean, like, dude, you look at a movie like Lamb. And that is, it's a tragic movie, and it's a drama, but it's got horrific horror elements in it, you know. And what I like about like films like that is that the real horror is human. Like we are the monsters, much like, you know, George Romero films, or John Carpenter.
Just think about it logically. I always use this quote that John said, and he's done it in plenty of interviews. There's two different kinds of horror. The horror that's out there, beyond your view, beyond the reefs that you can't see, the unknown. And then there's that horror that's inside of us. That's an everyday thing. Those are the two different kinds of horror that we experience every single day. That personable human horror, and then that unknown that's far beyond our reach. And I feel like A24 has done a great job at, you know, being able to capitalize on mixing the two things, making them smart and making them stylistic and making them look almost art house like Stanley Kubrick was still alive and he was directing every single fucking one of them. I mean, there's a different viewpoint when it comes to A24 horror movies, which that leads me to Bodies, which is their attempt at being, dare I say, for a younger generation in this world of a trendy place in horror. So I'm going to do this because Brady's not here to read the synopsis.
It. Let me fuck. Let me in,
it.
Coach.
You got it. Oh my God! Look at you! Look at you crushing it. Oh fuck, dude! All right,
Bodies.
Put your helmet on, motherfucker. You're in.
Bodies. When a group of rich 20-somethings plan a hurricane party at a remote family mansion, a party game turns deadly in this fresh and funny look at backstabbing, fake friends, and one party gone very, very wrong. In the synopsis.
That premise to me sounds like a fantastic remake of April Fool's Day. Tell me I'm wrong, guys. Seriously.
Like, literally when the movie started, Justin, you looked at me and you said, bro, April Fool's Day. And, you know, we did a whole episode on April Fool's Day, and anybody that listened to that knows that I don't particularly care for that movie, but I would have taken that approach over the approach that we were given with this. And I was almost like, okay, I want to see where this goes, because to me, the film that was given to us on a silver platter, that is Bodies, was a misrepresentation from the trailer that A24 gave us.
So I take it that you guys weren't big fans of this movie. That's what I'm taking so far.
Well, You know,
Yeah.
I
know that's a
don't
broad
wanna
question,
dig into
but
we'll
get into it.
I'm with it.
but,
I'm with it.
You know, I'm going to do this thing that we like to do to some of our guests to initiate them. It's almost like when you're in college, if you ever went there and, you know, you got hazing and such. But,
Bring it
Phil,
on.
we're going to do this to you.
All
we're going
right,
to throw
do
it at you first. Your initial thoughts after seeing this movie.
Okay. It was fun to look at. I mean, good cinematography. The dialogue, yeah, it was sharp. There were some comedic moments that made me chuckle. Zero tension at all. They got a lot of balls calling this a slasher movie. When it ended, I was like, huh, okay. I forgot about the movie before I got to my car in the parking lot. And I drove home thinking, how the fuck am I going to talk about this movie on this podcast? What is there?
So funny you said
What
that.
is there to talk about? It's like there are good moments to it. There's good dialogue and witty moments. It looks good. I do like the score by Disaster Piece, who also worked on It Follows.
Dude,
one of my favorite.
Yeah, I'm so glad you noticed that because how long has it been since Disaster Piece has done a score? I mean,
think he's only done like
scores.
One other movie since It Follows, but It Follows is one of my favorite horror movies of the last 10 years.
All-timer,
for sure. So I was like, okay, well, those parts were cool. But after it was over, I was just like, okay, that was a movie. I have no desire to rewatch it again. It just, I don't know, didn't do a whole lot for me. I mean, it was technically good in some ways, but it was just kind of shallow and forgettable.
So
I guess.
Before we jumped on this, Justin was like, I don't know how I'm going to talk about this movie even for half an hour.
Yeah.
He goes, I don't know how I'm going to talk about this movie for half an hour. So it's funny that you said that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. And you saw it even more recently than I did, Phil. And we saw it feels like 2 weeks ago. It probably wasn't, but it feels like an eternity ago when I watched the movie. And it was weird because this is something that I do when I do my events at Alamo Drafthouse is I always stand outside the theater as audience members leave to hear their reactions. Mm-hmm. You know, there's all these iconic stories from the 70s and 80s of, you know, ushers and theater managers standing outside of theaters and hearing them mention like what they thought of The Exorcist and Jaws or the Amityville Horror or you name it, like Friday the 13th, Halloween. There's always someone around that was like, dude, oh my God, the reactions were, you know, fill in the blank. So I always due diligence, try to stand out there and get a reaction from people and just understand their viewpoint on the movie. And Jeremy, I don't know if you remember this or not, but we stood there and I heard one dude say, it was all right. And then almost every single other person loved it. It was great. It was fun. One person came out and they looked remotely young and they were like, yeah, my cousin or something who looked like they were 16 loved it. And again, I think that this movie is most definitely geared towards a much younger audience. That Pretty Little Liars or whatever, I mean, I'm definitely out of touch with that stuff, but whatever the young people are watching right now on television, whether it be Netflix or Hulu or HBO Max, you know, this is something that's geared more towards them. And I don't hate that. I think this is actually a great idea. I think there's something that needs to be said for filling in that niche for, you know, not just the hardcore horror dudes like ourselves that like are like, well, this needs to be like this, and that, fill in these spots or it's not going to work for me. But again, this movie did not work for me. And I feel like from an outside perspective, there is a lot to like about this movie. Most definitely. I mean, I laughed my fucking ass off with this movie
funny parts.
on plenty of occasions. There was, you know, you said it a few minutes ago, Phil, the dialogue is extremely witty. It's extremely well written. I mean, in terms of a satire. Mm-hmm. And that's where I'm going to go with this. I feel like maybe they didn't have it in mind 100%, but they kind of approached this as, well, you know, let's do half a satire on a horror movie, and then we'll just see what happens. Because the movie is most definitely all over the place in terms of tone. it doesn't have a singular vision as to where it wants to go. It's most definitely not gory or bloody, and it's fucking not a slasher. This is not a slasher. I've seen two people call it a slasher that have seen it, and they're people that I respect, and I have to bite my tongue and hold back on
Where's
telling
the slashing?
them.
Where?
There's a slash, but there's a slash, but it's some motherfucker making a mistake, acting a fool, trying to do a TikTok video, which is probably the funniest thing in the fucking movie. And that motherfucker who just got done banging Kim Kardashian for 9 months just broke up with her. But dude, seriously though, I mean, he banged the one chick that I'd say 70% of our country, in terms of the male straight audience, would love to see naked.
I mean, I guess you can see her naked, right?
Yeah.
Well, you can, but like they're considering him they're in front of them, and for real. What I'm saying is, but if you look at Pete Davidson, which, I mean, I'm just going to jump into it right now. He is by far, I feel like, the standout in this movie.
Oh, he's
I mean,
fantastic.
whether you like his stuff on SNL or whatever, I laughed at all the dumb shit he said because he's playing, I feel like, the douchebag that every single person thinks he is in real life.
Which I don't.
Of
He's
course,
fucking
every
hilarious.
character. But no, what I'm saying is like, dude, again, when you look at him, you're like, that's the dude banging Kim Kardashian after Kanye West. It's just hilarious. He's this scrawny, pale white dude who's kind of fugly looking and shit, and he did no style at all or anything. He's just got a bunch of shitty tattoos.
Dude,
on him.
my favorite meme with him is Pete Davidson looks like what Beetlejuice would have looked like when he was alive. And that shit makes me laugh so fucking hard.
Yeah, I'll admit I wasn't the biggest Pete Davidson fan going into this. Watching his stuff on SNL, I didn't really care for his too cool to not try delivery, you know. I don't know. But in this movie, he was pretty good. He was one of the high points. Yeah. I was kind of surprised. I was like, okay, he's actually pretty good in this, so whatever.
The one line, which I'm gonna use this again. I'm married, and I'm never actually gonna try to pick anybody up at the bar, honey. If you're listening to this while you edit this, but it is that one line that I'm going to say when I'm out at the bar, just to fuck with people and be like, "I look like I fuck." Those are the best lines ever.
I look like serious? I fuck. Like that's the vibe that I'm trying to put out. That I fuck. I love it.
How is that not the best thing ever? I mean, again, he is supposed to be the biggest airheaded douchebag in the movie, and every character in this movie is a rich, I would say slightly narcissistic piece of shit.
Sure.
Minus the character B, who is the fish out of water in this situation, and wonderfully performed. And I'm going to butcher her name by Maria Baklava. Did I say it right, Jeremy? Did I say it right? Yeah. Who was absolutely brilliant in the Borat sequel. I thought she was wonderful in that movie. And I think she's really decent here. The problem is she's supposed to be our main protagonist in the film, yet you don't really do all that much up front to get us invested in her. We see that she's already in what my daughter would call a semi-toxic relationship. So they're invited to this party. They show up to this party. Already these people are alienating her girlfriend, and then they're alienating her because she's there with her girlfriend, and she doesn't seem to know much about her girlfriend's past. And then that past, over the course of the film, opens up more and more. All these doors start opening up, and you keep hearing more and more about what's happened in the past. But I feel like the hard part about this movie, guys, is the relatability of it. When you used to watch like a Friday the 13th movie in the 80s, or, I mean, you name any genre, right? The Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, for example, they were all real, regular kids. Now, granted, when you looked at their houses, now as an adult, you're like, that ain't no cheap house. That house is at least $1 million. But they presented them as relatively normal kids, where like any Joe Schmo kid could go to the theater, regardless of if they're lower middle class, upper middle class, rich, maybe if they're poor, and they're still going to enjoy the movie. This movie is about a character that we don't really know much about, and she's hanging out with a bunch of basically like multimillionaire kids. I just find that extremely difficult in terms of relatability. And then you're not going to like do your job in killing them off brutally enough where I'm enjoying.
When I watched the trailer for this, my interpretation of it wasn't that they were going to be these rich kids. I thought they were influencers, that they all were separate, famous influencers that rented a house out and were going to create content for the weekend. Obviously, I filled the blank in my fucking mind of what I thought this movie was going to be, but I thought that they were going to be content creators that were like, we're going to rent this mansion and all create content for our platforms, and then all of a sudden, you know, they start getting picked off one by one. That's what I thought this fucking movie was going to be, and that ended up being disappointing and being like, oh no, it's just trust fund kids. And I say kids, but Jesus Christ, Pete Davidson's in his fucking 30s. So, like, they're not kids.
Hey, man, I won't even lie to you, though.
Most of them.
I mean, the old me, Alamo Justin, if you will, when they were sniffing those lines of coke, I was like, bro, I wouldn't mind being there right about now. Just going to say it. I'm like, shit, they got top shelf liquor. They got a pool out back. Everyone's pretty decent looking and shit. And I'm like, this is the kind of party I'd like to be at. Who gives a fuck? And then they bring up this game, Bodies, which to me, again, I feel like they most definitely had to have watched April Fool's Day as a reference point to make this movie. The references and the homages are quite obvious to me. Maybe they're not, but that's where I stand on this movie. They want to create like a Clue-like movie with a bunch of young up-and-coming actors, because let's face it, this movie has no real name other than Pete Davidson, and he's in the movie for all of what, like 20 minutes of the movie?
Yeah.
Spoiler,
he was the first to go.
Yeah, spoiler alert. Yeah, he was the first one to go.
So ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't seen the movie, see, we always usually do that.
Back out now.
That's what.
If you haven't seen, if you haven't seen the movie, you're lucky.
Get out.
So yeah, he's the first one to go. He pops up, up against a sliding glass door with his throat slit, and they're like, "Yo, somebody murdered him."
We don't know why. We don't know what happened, man. So everyone is under the impression that holy fuck, one of the rest of us killed him.
Yeah.
Because of something that he did to us. Now, that's a great setup, and it's written very well in terms of like the angst and the aggression that all of these people have together in this group, because I know this for a fact. I mean, when we were younger, like, we had that in groups, but we didn't really talk about it that much. Kids today, learning from my daughter, they talk about it a lot, whether it be on social media or on, group chats or whatever. They talk about this shit all the time. So the movie is extremely smart in presenting like the modern day youth and how they interact with each other when it comes to any kind of confrontation, which they don't want to do face to face. They try to keep it on their phones. Yeah. So when it comes to face situations, it's extremely difficult for them to express themselves outside of just being pure dicks to each other and saying snarky comments. Obviously, we have characters here who have, slept together. There have been relationships, which made it even more interesting. The character of Sophie comes in here. She's apparently gone to rehab. She's bringing her new girlfriend B in the situation. There's some people in this house that have already had relationships with her, so there's automatically that tension. From an outside perspective, again, the film should work based on that premise alone. But unfortunately, I feel like the filmmakers here really strive to try to go more towards the comedy aspect of it and making it a lot lighter-hearted than actually adding legitimate tension, fear, suspense, and terror. That's my main issue with this movie, and I know, Jeremy, you and I talked about this after the movie came out and we watched it. I'm not scared one single moment in this fucking movie.
No, not at all. There was zero suspense. I can't recall a single moment of tension or like, oh shit, like, oh no, what's going to happen? Maybe like when they confronted
dude in the
Greg.
gym. Yeah.
Yeah, like
that
was
scene's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I think that was probably one of my favorite scenes of the movie, just with him wearing his mask.
Well, dude, I love
that seasonal affective disorder, like them waking him up.
Greg,
like,
played by Lee Pace. I love that scene so much, just because you know from the beginning, if you watch this movie with any kind of intellect or any kind of intelligence, you already know that's not the dude. You know that's not the dude because he's a red herring. Yeah. Those of us that have been watching these movies all our lives are like, no, that's not the guy. Any 16-year-old kid in the audience is probably going to be like, oh, that might be the guy. As soon as they walk in the door, like, that's the first most brutal kill of the movie, and it's like this innocent dude. So
it's honestly one of the only kills on screen in the entire movie.
I think it
and
is
they kill
the
a dude.
Only...
Yeah, actually, you're right.
Well, they shoot the girl gets shot in the head. I guess you kind of see that. Yeah, a little bit.
They killed this dude, right? Who is like definitely the most attractive dude in the movie. And I love how the whole build up to that was, oh, he's a vet. Yeah. He's all ripped and shit. And you're like thinking, oh man, this guy's like a weapons expert, whatever. Like, and then like, no, he was a fucking veterinarian.
Yeah,
what the fuck?
Dude, there are like moments of actual, hilarity in this. But like when you all add it up in the end, it just didn't equal a whole lot. Like it just I don't know. Like, yeah, the parts with the glow stick girl, like, oh, he's a Leo, like that part was really funny. But I don't know, that kind of stuff just isn't enough to keep me interested. Like I found like I'd say like in the last 10 minutes, my attention was waning when it came down to like the last 3 and they were fighting over the phone. Like, show me your pictures. I'm just like, I kind of don't give a shit anymore.
Same.
Like, just let's wrap this up.
Same.
Like,
this movie has a lean runtime. It's a very short movie, and I found
it is. Yeah.
I found myself like, when the fuck?
95.
Yeah,
minutes,
when the
man.
fuck is this gonna end, man? When is this gonna end? I'm so over this. I don't enjoy this.
There's one thing you had said, Jeremy, to me that you thought this is not a horror movie, and I wanted you really to elaborate on that.
It's not a horror film. It may be A24. It may be.
I'll co-sign on that statement.
It may be advertised like it's some slasher or some like crazy situational based horror film. This is
like whodunit.
This is not that. This is a black comedy that has dramatic elements in it. That's a depiction of today's youth and the woke movement, and it's a platform to kind of poke fun at a lot of these tropes from this new generation of people that live on their phones and they live vicariously through other people through the internet. It is not a horror film. There's not one moment in the film that I could even, like I said, again, I'm going to go back to Lamb. In Lamb, like you could really say it's not necessarily a horror film, but it's tragic, and there are horrific things that you could say, oh, okay, like there is horror-inspired elements in this film. This movie is not that. Just because somebody is dead or somebody is being killed does not make it a horror film. You know what I mean? That's like that's like saying Weekend at Bernie's is a horror film, and this is a quote. Just because there's a dead guy that they carry around the whole movie doesn't make that a horror film. The same way that just because people die.
Pulp Fiction had more tension than this movie.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean? There's dead people in that movie, but it doesn't. I would consider this like a comedy thriller, or as our friend LL Cool J says, a thriller. I'm gonna write a thriller.
It just, I couldn't wait for this thing to be over. I think honestly this may be the movie that has pissed me off the most this year, that I just feel like I wasted moments of my life watching this thing that I should have never seen. So if you're listening to this and you haven't seen it, of course film is subjective. Watch it for yourself if you'd like. But
I love how you're using my line. That's okay.
Yeah, but it's true. But film is subjective. If it's something that you want to watch it. But if you haven't, you'll be all right. You'll be all right. You don't need this. You don't need it.
You will be all right. I mean, again, this is a movie I feel like that is geared towards a totally different audience, and maybe they are really trying to, change the face of what this kind of movie can be. And I do respect them in that respect. I mean, it was directed by a woman like Helena Rain, and I have to mention the names of these people that were involved in this movie. The screenplay was by Sarah Lepay, and these people put their hearts and souls into this movie, and they tried to create something totally different. And I think for maybe not our audience, maybe it was meant to be specifically for a younger audience. Now, a few years back in 2019, I was not only offended, I was hurt, and I had to get therapy over the 2019 attempt at a Black Christmas remake. And this movie, I feel like, does a way better job at what that movie attempted to do. This movie is not woke in any sense of the word, I don't think at all. I think it's just trying to represent the current state of the youth and what they do and how they react to each other in certain circumstances. And also, it's a satire on those situations, but it doesn't necessarily go all the way there. My main issue was it didn't go all the way there. If you're going to do a satire, go all the way, pick fun at it all the way, and then, of course, do the one thing that you're supposed to fucking do that I expect from you, which is amazing kills, great gore. Give me some suspense. I mean, dude, the location they shot on was a real mansion. It looked fucking great. Everything about the production design was perfect. I mean, all of the acting. I mean, I'm not even going to, gripe on that at all, because everything was really solid for the most part. But while the writing is sound, not one single one of the characters was written well enough or likable enough for me to root for.
It's like a Rob Zombie
protagonist.
Don't get me started.
It's like a Rob Zombie film in the sense that give me a movie.
Wait, are we reviewing the Munsters yet? Is this the Munsters? Oh my God, we already saw the Munsters.
You give me a movie full of people that are unlikable that I don't relate to due to the dialogue and different things, and then you want me to care about them, and when we're in the finale and the stakes are higher than they've been the entire film, I don't fucking care. I don't care about these people.
Yeah, we'll talk about his Halloween later. But back to Bodies. Yeah, man, I totally get what you're saying. Just can't really latch on to any of the characters. And should we go ahead and talk about the twist, if you will? Go
ahead, man.
The big reveal is that Pete Davidson accidentally killed himself while filming a TikTok video.
Like a fucking idiot! Like the idiot that he fucking is. It's so hilarious. That was the one moment where I literally jumped out of my seat and I was like, yes, you did something right with this movie, because it was hilarious.
Dude, that was fun.
And that's why it's funny.
Yeah.
When you look at the poster and he's holding that fucking machete close to his face, you're like, oh my God. People online are like, oh my God, he's the killer. How dare Kim Kardashian allow her boyfriend to be the killer in a horror movie? And I'm like, nah, man, he ain't the killer.
He accidentally killed himself.
It's misdirection.
There was a character in the beginning of the movie that opens up a champagne bottle with a fucking katana sword. So cut to the finale of the movie, and they find his phone because they thought it was one of their own phones. So then they see the video of him trying to open another bottle with the fucking katana sword. Next thing you know, he puts it down and he's like swinging it around, pretending to be a martial artist, and he accidentally chops himself in the fucking throat with a katana sword.
Well, do we know what he's been doing? He's been drinking all night.
Drugs.
He's on obviously he's very rich, so the cocaine he's snorting is not like pussy man's cocaine. It's not like the guy in the corner in some low level street of Brooklyn's cocaine. It's high level cocaine. So that shit's straight to the brain. He's like, I'm gonna do a TikTok. I'm good, bro. No, he ain't.
I have a question about
dead.
that TikTok, though. Maybe I'm remembering this wrong, but wasn't it like daylight and not raining when he was filming that TikTok?
I think it was the lights, like from the back patio. It was nighttime, but I think the lights from the back patio were very, like those motion lights that are very bright.
Gotcha.
I think that's what it was, which made it look like it maybe like wasn't nighttime, but it was just those super bright lights on the back porch. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, even
but still,
even I liked his character. I thought he was funny. I thought there were many parts that were intentionally funny that I laughed. Justin and I were laughing. Like, some of the writing was good in this movie. I like the finale of the movie. I like that the twist was literally that no one was the killer, but all it took was one bad situation to turn everybody against each other, to the point where they were literally killing each other, thinking that this other person could be the killer. I like that.
I mean,
it's a good twist.
That's honestly very smart social commentary in terms of our current society and how our youth reacts to each other. That's where they're at. And that's why I stand semi-positive on this movie, nowhere near as positive as I wanted to be. But in reality, this is a reflection on today's youth, just like so many other movies that we loved from our childhood. Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, those kids in the 90s, you know, name the movie. I mean, there's always going to be that representation of the youth at that time. And I feel like Bodies does a very accurate representation of what the youth is today. And maybe part of our issues with the movie are the fact that we just don't like where our society is at this point, especially in the United States. I'm not going to lie. A part of my opinion on this movie is the fact that it reflects so hard on that, and that I just don't care for it. But that doesn't mean that it's not it's a successful movie in terms of entertainment for somebody. It's just not successful in terms of entertainment for me. And I feel like maybe my daughter could go with her friends. They could go smoke their joint before they go in the fucking door and sit there and laugh at it and maybe have a good time with it. It's really just not scary at all, though. That's the problem I have, is that even if you watch April Fool's Day, which Jeremy said in the beginning of this episode, we did a retrospective on earlier this year, that movie still has moments of tension where you think things are happening and the horror is presented in a real world sense. Here, it's just a bunch of girls yelling at each other, looking at their phones. But dude, honestly, that's the world we're in right now. So taking a few steps back, which is what we necessarily need to do to look at this movie from an outside perspective, that's where we're at, guys. I mean, that's just really where the world is right now. When I go to the gym, when I go to a show, when I go to a movie, it doesn't matter where I go. When I look around, all everyone is doing is looking at their phone. And all everyone is doing half the time is judging everybody else. Not in person, but on their phones. And this movie does a good job at representing the youth of today. And how fucking coarse it is and rough. And, I mean, people are fucking mean. So the movie does not succeed as a horror comedy. Nope. I agree with Jeremy on that. That was the one thing I saw you posted
Shaun
a few weeks ago.
Shaun of the Dead is a horror comedy, right? Like, that's a horror comedy.
I literally just watched that yesterday.
It's so good.
For the first time in a while.
So good.
God damn, what
so
a good movie.
Like, dude, Shaun of the Dead is a horror comedy. And it's done well because the horror is done well and the comedy is done well. It's a hard thing to pull off as a horror comedy. That movie does it really well. This movie, I don't even know if they even thought or were trying to make a horror comedy. Like, I don't know. I don't know what their vision was for it, but I can tell you that A24 made you think that this was going to be an A24 horror comedy, and it was not.
That's a valid perspective. I think maybe it's a horror comedy from the viewpoint of what maybe a younger audience member would think. But there's really no horror, though. That's the problem. And Phil, you said this earlier on in the episode. There is no suspense. Like, there's really no tension. I mean, there are scenes where they're in the dark and stuff, but like, there's no gotcha moment or anything like that. There's moments of hilarity and humor, but also, like, I'm just gonna say it right now. Sure, I like to see people make out in movies, whether it's girl on guy, girl on girl, guy on guy. I really don't care. Like, that's awesome to see in horror movies. This is a perfect opportunity. Like, why not have like an awesome sex scene in this movie? Do you take nothing from the 80s? I'm just saying, do you take nothing from the 80s? Like, that's literally like what you're trying to homage in this movie. Like, let's see someone legitimately trying to get laid in the movie. Are we really that woke? Are we really that sensitive? Like, dude, look at Instagram. Look at Tinder. Look at every fucking thing else. Everybody's trying to sell themselves as a sexy creature on this planet. Like, you're all shying away from it in the movies. You won't give us sex scenes in horror movies or tits or dick or anything.
Canceled.
But
all
like,
canceled.
The movie is like the most unsexy thing that I've ever watched. And not that the movie needs to be, but I'm saying, like, dude, y'all are in a fucking mansion with booze and drugs and you're all there. Tell me that you weren't there to have a fucking blast, and sex is always involved. Like, that's the one thing they're hiding. And I hate that so much in our current state of social politics, if you will, when it comes to filmmaking, because, dude, sex is everything. Like, you are a Christian and you are the most religious motherfucker in the world. When you come home, you're still fucking your wife, dude. You're still sticking your dick in her. She's still sucking your cock. It doesn't matter what religion you are. So, like, no one gives a fuck. Just put sex in horror movies again. That's
Put
why.
that on a fucking baseball hat. Put sex in horror movies again.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it for real. I'm just saying, like, Phil, Freeman, you had a thought there, brother.
No.
Let's hear it, dude. I've been waiting.
I want to pose a question for you guys. Would you have liked this movie more if, let's say, like, the lights go out and a person in a mask and a robe or whatever getup that you can imagine, if some sort of thing popped up and you saw somebody get slashed and killed in a brutal way, and the lights go out and it's...
Yes.
Something happens, and then the lights come on, and you're like, what the fuck happened? Who was that? Like, if you had taken this formula, because it is a good setting. You have a mansion and a hurricane.
Perfect setting.
No power. Like, all the ingredients are there, but they rely on just gossip. Oh my God, we found so-and-so. Like, wouldn't it have made it better if there was a threat that you could see? Like, would that have changed your opinion on the movie at all?
Yeah, for me, for sure. I feel like at least I would have gotten a semblance of something that the studio kind of teased that I was going to get out of this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like that probably would have been enough for me to be like, okay, yeah, this is, I don't need to have a studio tell me the movie that I'm gonna get and then get that movie. Like, if you're gonna do a twist, do like a clever twist, but I just feel like it was misrepresentation in the trailer. So yes, to answer your question, for sure, if all of a sudden the lights went out and they came back on and it was a dude or a chick in a fucking robe and a mask and they slashed somebody, then yeah, I feel like it would have at least given me something that I was looking for out of it.
Yeah.
But instead,
would have upped the stakes a bit.
Instead, it was it was like you guys said, it was not suspenseful. There was never a moment where I was on the edge of my seat, concerned for any of these characters. I didn't care. Like, literally, I didn't care.
Well, also, all of the characters are -1 are rich trust fund goodies. Much like Max Schreck says in Batman Returns. I stole that line from Christopher Walken, just so you guys know. Thank you, Daniel Waters, for writing that line of dialogue. But no, for real, you know what? I'm that guy that literally lives and breathes, like, put him in a costume, give him a cool weapon, put him in the darkness, shine some awesome lighting on him and let me see him in silhouette before he kills someone with a great epic scene.
Sure.
I don't necessarily know that I need that here, but what I would have loved, and someone actually posed this question over on Twitter today, so it's crazy that we're talking about this tonight, August 8th, 2022. But why don't we have an iconic female slasher villain? We don't have one. We literally do not have one. We have Scream Queens, and then we have horror icons, which are all male.
Urban Legend.
I mean, of course, I love Urban Legend. I mean, we're getting Urban Legend director on the show in the next few weeks.
Hell yeah.
Cool. Really excited to have him on. But, I mean, in terms of icon, though, like icon where everyone knows it, like it needs to be so relevant that people are wearing it on shirts. Like
Sleepaway Camp is the closest thing we have to it, but not everybody. Not everybody knows. Like a normal, like we call them normies.
Well, there's Mary Lou. There's Mary Lou, the prom night too, and stuff like that. But I mean, like overall for the mainstream, there is legitimately no major female horror icon, and I would love to have that happen.
Yeah. And
this movie had the opportunity to present that and give that to us. I feel like that's why I love Ready or Not so much. Samara Weaving, the guys that from Radio Silence that did the new Scream movie, they presented someone that was vulnerable, that was just trying to have a wedding, that ended up killing like a whole fucking family based on survival, and then walked out like a badass. We could use that kind of presentation for a female horror icon and still make them likable. I mean, it just comes down to writing. Now, Jeremy, you know this, man. You've written plenty of scripts for horror movies. You know the basics of it. You have to make them relatable, and you have to present something that still makes them a force of nature, but also where people can like them. Why do you think we keep coming back to the Friday the 13th franchise or the Halloween franchise or any of the major franchises? We like those characters. Yes, they're brutal, slaughtering murderers, but there's something about them that we are connected to. It's like there's a magnet on them and a magnet on us, and we just instantly go to them. This movie had the opportunity, the potential to do so much more, and I feel like that's where I lie on Bodies, is that it could have been so much more than it was. And being an A24 movie, I most definitely expected more from that brand. Had this been a Blumhouse movie, I would have expected
I would have said that
this is
tracked.
What
for sure.
This tracked perfectly for that. But, I mean, guys, A24 has been mostly hit, almost never missed, for me at least. Jeremy, I'm pretty sure you can agree with 100%. Me. I don't know about you, Phil.
Mostly hit, yeah, sure. I rewatched The Witch about a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, God damn, what a perfect fucking movie. Like,
I fucking love The Witch. Robert Eggers is, I mean, oh, God. I mean,
so good. And Hereditary
that's an
is
episode
like
all to itself.
Possibly top 5 of all time for me.
That's so good.
Yeah, mostly hit. Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. So, I mean, like, it frustrates me even more and more that these movies that we want a champion that are all female, backed. Like they were written by female. I hate using that word. Okay, so I should say people are getting heat for using that term. So women directed this movie. They wrote the movie. They did the story for this movie. And it still did not add up to being anything all that much. Now, I feel like if you just get the right idea behind it, it'll fall into place. And I know they were going with the right intentions with this movie, but unfortunately, it just did not land for. I feel like any of us, and maybe we're the minority, but ladies and gentlemen, if you want to see this movie, if you haven't seen it yet, you listen to this whole thing, still go see the movie. But if you've seen the movie, I hope you enjoyed our review. We have to go around the room right now. we're going to do that little segment we like to call Trash It or Treasure It. And we're going to start with our guest, Phil from the Spook House Podcast. So I think I know where you're going with this, but trash it or treasure it?
Oh, man, that's... I'll start
we
by...
make it hard. There's no 1 out of 10 on this fucking thing. It's either yay or nay, and that's it.
Me personally, nay. I never want to watch it again, ever. I mean, there's no reason to watch it again. If I may depart with some positive thoughts, like, I didn't hate watching this movie at any point. It did keep me engaged. I was entertained. Okay, like, in the last 15, 20 minutes, my attention started to dwindle a little bit, but I wasn't angry leaving the theaters like I have with some movies. But overall, to answer your question, trash it. Yeah. That's just...
Ooh, there it is.
There it is.
Cling those fucking trash can covers together.
But hey, if you know what? If some
celebrate.
people see it and they love it, then hey, kudos. Like, it's a fun movie. I could see putting this movie on when you got some buddies at the house and you're having some beers and you don't really want to watch a movie, but they want to watch a movie.
Or some really good fucking cocaine, though.
There you go, man.
Top shelf bourbon, really good cocaine. Just saying, man. That's what you see in the movie. Tell me that when you're watching this movie, you're like, I want what he has. Just saying.
Hey, man. That's a whole other discussion. But yeah.
So one of the first things that I said to you, Justin, when we walked out of the theater is that when we sit down to do a review of this movie, I am going to tear it the fuck apart. Because that's how much I hated it. And I know how hard it is to make a movie, and it takes so many people to make a movie, and it's an art form, and it sucks to not be able to appreciate someone's art and to publicly say, hey, I don't like this fucking thing. It's not good. Because that's my opinion, but my opinion is that this thing is not good. I never want to see this fucking movie ever again in my entire life. Like, I could live 100 more years, and I will never go, you know what I want to watch again? Bodies, bodies, bodies. Like, never in my life.
So, dude, when you come over and I get my home theater set up, and I'm like, dude, we're watching Bodies, 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 man. I just got the new 4K Ultra HD. You're not going to be excited.
You would see my body getting in my vehicle and driving the fuck back home. I never want to see this movie again. There's just nothing that would appeal for me to do that. I hated it. Again, there were some parts that I laughed at that were very clever. I liked Pete Davidson. I liked the twist that he actually wasn't murdered, that he's a fucking idiot and he killed himself on accident. I like that. I just don't like the overall movie. I don't, like you said earlier, Justin, I don't relate to these characters at all, and they're not likable. So it's a huge motherfucking pile of trash for me. I absolutely trash it.
Oh,
absolutely
damn,
trash
holy
it.
Fuck.
So, yeah.
This is the first time since James Bond's Malignant that I've heard you that fucking brutal, dude. I'm actually...
Dude, put both those movies in the fucking trash can together and just... Gasoline and fire. Gasoline and fire.
Thank you, HBO Max, for being a piece of shit streaming platform, and you're removing all your movies. Because I just bought the Malignant 4K Ultra HD just for Jeremy when he comes over. So when he comes over, I'm like, dude, we're going to watch this one movie you've never seen. I'm going to put Malignant in and be like, yeah, you've never heard of it. It's some Giallo movie you've never seen.
Not a Giallo movie.
But no...
Jeremy, dude, I will back you up 1,000. I get the sense that you hate Malignant, and I
hate it.
It raises my blood pressure to think about that movie.
Thank you.
I fucking hate it.
It raises my blood pressure. It raises my blood pressure in my dick because it makes it so hard because I love it so much. I'm like, I'm gonna fuck this movie. In
I'll
its
watch
face.
The Conjuring 2
but ladies and gentlemen,
it'd be just fine.
No, of course, masterpiece. But ladies and gentlemen, so it sounds like, and I'm just going to say it right now, of course you've heard my thoughts. I'm not going to babble on for too much longer. I'm trashing this movie as well. That does not mean that there is not an audience member out there for this movie. I feel like this movie could have been participation worthy in the sense that it could have been something for one generation and something for another. And that's really where this kind of movie needs to be, especially for A24. They're smart. They know what they're doing. I mean, we've talked about so many other movies that are smarter and they have social commentary in them. The Night House comes to mind, which myself and Jeremy both loved. I mean, so many other movies. This movie just did not land properly. But I could see, like, I mean, think about it logically. If this kind of movie had come out in the 90s or the 80s and a bunch of young girls that were unwinding together, they just wanted to have a friend's night, maybe smoke a joint or something, they're going to have a few beers in the parking lot or something, they could go watch this movie and it could be for them. And this is what this movie is. And it's just not for us. And I'm totally cool with that. I feel like horror needs to be inclusive at times, and other times it doesn't need to be. And that's what this movie is doing. But it's just, you need to find something that everybody can relate to if you're going to release it into theaters, because everyone's going to see it. It's not like the 80s, man, where your dad's going to take you to see Friday the 13th 3D in 3D, and your dad's going to be like, okay, I'll just close my eyes and drink my Miller Lite that's under my fucking jacket while you're watching all this cool horror shit, man. It's not the same time. It's a different world that we live in. And I just, wish we could get a little bit more out of this movie. More relatable characters. Trash it for me. That's it for this Fresh Fright review. Brain stew. Bodies, bodies, bodies. And again, I'd love to thank our great guest, Phil. Dude, seriously, give yourself a round of applause, motherfucker. You drank Tito's on this show.
Dude,
seriously,
Tito's and soda, man. Look, dude, I told you earlier, I'm a fan of the show. I legit love what you guys are doing. And I've listened to enough episodes to know that you like Tito's and soda. So that's what I drank tonight. So
love it.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Dude, we need to have you on more. We had
thankful.
Such a good pre-show banter that I'd like, dude.
Anytime. Dude, that was the best
dude,
stuff.
I mean,
like, let's just...
Halloween.
You guys want to talk about Halloween
coming,
right now?
dude.
Let's do it.
No, believe me, we've got plenty of Halloween content on the way. We got Halloween Ends coming up this October. So ladies and gentlemen, you all know you enjoyed our Halloween countdowns last year. And that's what myself, Jeremy, and Phil were talking about pre-show. We're going to have plenty more Halloween countdowns leading up to Halloween Ends, because we know that movie will be the last movie in that trilogy, but there's going to be more Halloween stuff down the 100%. Road. But we're going to capitalize on that and talk all about Halloween again leading up to that in September and October. And we've got plenty more surprises on the way. We honestly cannot wait for you guys to see. Jeremy's got some awesome guests in store. I have some awesome guests in store. There's some awesome shit that you guys aren't even fucking prepared for right now. It's going to be so amazing. We love you guys so, so much. Jeremy, if they're looking for us on social media and they just want to find out where they can find us, please enlighten them.
Hey, Justin, thanks for bringing me on the shows again. Talking about body parts, penis parts. It was a blast to be on,
You're not feeling your penis body part, are you, right now?
Dude, I've actually been squeezing my junk for 20 minutes. I've had to piss for 20 minutes. And the reason I didn't just go is because I thought that 20 minutes ago I was like, oh, we're about to do Trash It or Treasure It, and then we kept talking about it. So then I actually literally have been squeezing my junk. I'm like, it's okay, buddy. We're gonna go to the bathroom here in a little bit.
And in your fucking amazing basement, which should be a museum, you should have a hose that leads from your dick all the way through the wall into the bathroom or something. That'd be
goes through the predator's mouth and into the wall and into the bathroom. But yeah, man, we're on all the social media platforms at Epic Film Guys. We're on all of your favorite podcast listening apps. It's fantastic. You should go and tell your neighbors and your friends and Mennonites like Brady that they should get a computer so they could listen to us, or a smartphone and listen to us. And that's where you'll find us. And Phil, where can our audience find you?
Anywhere you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple. Add the Instagram, the Spook House Podcast. I'm starting to post stuff on the YouTube page. Just look up the Spook House Podcast, and yeah, everything's there.
Amazing, dude. Thanks again for joining us. Like, seriously, like, you're one of us, man. You're one of us.
Oh, dude, my pleasure. This is great.
Ding, 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 ding. But until next time, I'm Justin.
I am always Jeremy.
And we are
Phil.
Joined this week by, yeah, there we go.
I didn't know if I was supposed to chime in.
I love it.
Yeah. Dude, see, he knows this shit. That's what I'm saying. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to this guy. He's a natural. Brady, you're gone,
out, Brady.
You're
out.
I love you. I love you. But as always, we like to ask you to keep it creepy.
Brain Stew!